What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Whew. It has been quite a day. Hopefully, it's been good for you guys. Welcome, of course, to another episode of Opinionated with yours truly. Give me 1 second, and hopefully, you are having a good day. For me, it's a rather busy and a little bit of a disorienting day for me. I have been up for some time, but hopefully, your day has been well. Um, I do have things that I kind of want to look at. I do have a main thing that's on my head, that's in my head right now. I just haven't quite figured out how to properly articulate it for you guys right now, right? And today we're gonna do a little bit laid back because the thing that I'm thinking about right now, I need to put some more pepper on it. That's really what I need to do right now. I need to put some more pepper on it so that it's properly prepared for you guys. In addition to that, I am thinking about making a couple of additions to the actual show itself. So you could be looking forward to some things that may be some that might be new in the future. We'll see if you like it. We'll see if you hate it. I don't know. So I got a couple of things in mind, a couple of things that I'm actually planning for, a couple of things that I want to know that we can all do together. For the idea of it being a little bit more engaging. I know there are definitely people who they don't really have the time to really sit down. So I've been thinking about how the format of the show is itself, in general, just so whether you are someone who's actually able to sit down and actually just take a gander of everything going on, or whether you're someone who's on the move and is strictly within your headsets, that you can be able to best enjoy what's going on. So I've been really trying to look at it from a lot of different angles, and that's that's pretty much where I am from there. So hopefully that your day has been good. Like I said, mine has been sporadic. Even now, I got people running around, um, running around inside the place. But I want to get over some things that were also inside of my algorithm, which looks crazy right now. There are a couple of things I am thinking about as well, like as far as new segments that I want to add to the show, new things just to do in addition to the show. Maybe there's even some new days being added to it. I don't know. Still trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out if it's a good idea or not. And just trying to see what my schedule looks like to see if that's the kind of thing that I can actually do right now. That's just pretty much it. I'm even noticing that time is everything's off. I got my background off. This is not our this is not how our normal look is. There we go. That's more of our normal look. So let's get into some of the things that have been sitting over in my algorithm. I I probably will see if I can talk to you about where I'm basically trying to think about, which if I don't really nail down, I really want to just save it for our next stream, or I'll figure out something in between. I actually did have a whole stream that I did that I recorded and everything, but after going through it, I realized I wasn't necessarily happy with it. But we can get into that a little bit later. Right now, I just want to talk about some of the things that's already popped up. So here we're gonna go down to our area here. I'm gonna work on all of this with the ideas of what I got going on through my head. And let's take a look here and see what we got in store.
Our next story is about Russia's pacifist neighbor, Japan. It finds itself in an increasingly dangerous neighborhood: North Korea, China, Russia, Taiwan. It's a volatile region. Tensions are boiling over the Taiwan issue, and the war in Ukraine seems as intense as ever.
北朝鮮のメディアの発表につきまして
The
は
government of Japan
Seems like everything's already messing up already. I had this sorted out. It's not sorting out. I'm having a bit of a day. Sorry guys, having a bit of a day. It just means I have to do a little bit of extra work. So just give me a little bit of time, and I got this for you right now. Who don't like his views when it comes to no.
Our next story is about Russia's pacifist neighbor, Japan. It finds itself in an increasingly dangerous neighborhood: North Korea, China, Russia, Taiwan. It's a volatile region. Tensions are boiling over the Taiwan issue, and the war in Ukraine seems as intense as ever.
The government of Japan will keep watching Russia's military operations as they have been stepping up activity in the Far East, including areas around Japan.
Then we have China. Last year, China fired ballistic missiles. Some landed in waters close to Japan. Also in the neighborhood is North Korea. It's on a missile firing spree. One of them flew over Japan.
The series of actions by North Korea, including its repeated ballistic missile firings, are threats to peace and safety.
So, okay, there's a couple of things that are going on through my mind that I'm thinking about. The first thing that's going through my mind is, wow, after so long, we have Japan basically building up its military. Is this something that I don't think that we're really worried about? I mean, I don't think that Japan will go out of its way to all of a sudden start doing something really, really monumentously stupid in the future when it comes to, I guess, separating themselves when it comes to the U.S. I don't see that necessarily being a thing that's really going to be looked at for the future. So I don't necessarily have any complaints or have any concerns when it comes to that. A little bit of light over here. I don't really have any strong concerns when it comes to that. So I'm not worried about that being a thing for the future. Now, apparently, Japan does have a little bit of a problem and why they want to raise their stuff or why they're raising money. And let's just be honest, it's got to be over the recent debacle, or rather the recent action that's been taking place when it comes to China, because this whole thing about China wanting to reclaim Taiwan. You gotta pretty much blame this all on Russia and Putin because of the whole Ukraine thing. So of course, if they can do it, then I can do it, and that's why China's trying to pull their whole thing. I'm trying to figure out why they want to do it for simple islands. Not like you're taking over massive land. So I really don't see the appeal, but apparently they see some stock in that.
Of Japan and the region, as well as the international community.
So Japan is surrounded by volatility, and it makes sense that Japan is preparing itself. It wants to build bomb shelters for its people. Japanese lawmakers are pushing for the rollout. They want a law that could be passed in less than a year. It wants shelters where citizens can take refuge in the event of a war. Is this an overreaction? Why is Japan preparing for war? Because it suffered unspeakable misery in the last war it was involved in, the Second World War. It's been 77 years, and Japan has not fought.
So we have Japan even trying to create areas where, quote, their people could be able to take shelter post-war. Do you think with all the bodies, with all the capabilities, because it's a different time. It's a different time right now. Back in the days when they were actually doing their fights and all, when it came to how war was actually done, Japan is not the same country that it used to be. I'm just gonna say that. Yes, you are definitely derived of a warrior race, but I don't know if you can really say that that's something that you guys are anymore. In addition to that, you can really say that the U.S. would be the ones taking the full brunt of most of the work that's gonna be there. Not shitting you guys or anything. I think there's just an aspect of you having to really get back into it of your own volition, finding your stride rather, and this is really something that the U.S. has to jump into itself. And I would even say within Japan, you have to worry about those southern islands, like where Osaka is at and such like that, because those are the areas that have the actual military bases. So these are the areas that need to be looked at. Now, if they want to raise it, cool. But now they're talking about trying to get all their funding up within a year's time, while you already have China that's already been moving around with who knows how many forces. And no matter how you look at it, You are a lone isle at the end of the day. These guys got missiles and all kind of other stuff, and Japan doesn't really have that. So unless you're willing to buy all that stuff, I'm not really sure if raising the funds now for close to being next year is going to really hold out, especially if these guys get stupid antsy when we still got half a year left right now and they want to do something about it.
Fought a war in all these years. But of late, Tokyo's posture has been shifting. It is working on military preparedness.
The security and defense policies in these documents signify a great change in the post war national security strategy.
In December last year, Japan pledged to pull up its socks. It joined the arms race in Asia. It is still constrained by its pacifist constitution, a constitution that was drawn up after the Second World War. So Japan does not have an army, it has a self-defense force, and it is protected by the American security umbrella. But over the last few years, there's been a gradual shift. The constitution is still in place, but the policies are changing. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has vowed to boost defense spending. Over the next 5 years, Japan will increase it by as much as 50%. This is a $320 billion plan. Japan wants to be ready for sustained conflict. It wants to be able to respond if enemies strike. Kishida wants to acquire missiles. He wants to secure evacuation facilities and raise public awareness. And the last 2 points are probably much needed. Let's go back to August last year. Former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi paid a visit to Taiwan. China threw a fit. It fired a barrage of missiles, and some of those missiles landed in Japan's exclusive economic zone. It shocked the island nation. It left the people of Japan puzzled. They did not know what to do. Where should
I'm puzzled. Why would you guys get nasty over Nancy Pelosi showing up? Well, why would that mean anything? Why would you lose your shit over that? Like, that's really weird to me. I just think that right now, with the way how things are going, that they're looking for any reason to just get their asses in the itch so that they can try to start something. Not for nothing, I just gotta be honest with you. I don't know what they believe that they have, or what if this is like a desperate attempt, if they're desperate at something. But quite frankly, right now, I don't think this is this is my initial thinking. Like, I don't think it's a proper move. Regardless of how you look at it, and I guess if you want to look at it, the powers of the world, because everybody think that they have enough capabilities to hit somebody else, and we're all holding on to stuff, whatever. Like, well, what are you guys thinking? Honestly, what the heck are you guys thinking? Whatever you think that you have, whatever you think that you're holding on to in terms of power, is it going to be worth it if the rest of the world can retaliate against you? And that's just going to be the end of that. Because you'll think that you're starting a fight in just one area and you'll be getting it in multiple. So I don't believe that you're being smart about it. Or maybe you just don't care. Maybe you're throwing all your eggs in one basket when it comes to Russia and Russia alone. That could just be the case.
they run? There were no nearby shelter facilities. And that's when Japan realized that it was vastly underprepared. In the name of evacuation facilities, they have a wide network of subways. In case of a missile attack, this is where civilians can take shelter. But these subways are present in major cities. What do you do if you're not close?
Which won't do a damn thing. Yes, you'll have cities underground, but let's be honest. Those missile attacks are going to cause a lot of cave-ins, a lot of collapses, right? And then even afterwards, when you have all your civilians around, right? Do you think that China will not have forces on the ground to do the cleanup? You guys are already, all Asian nations. I would say minus India, because I didn't hear anything about India. All the Orient, let me just say this, has already had a factor of speaking about a decline in population. And no matter how you look at it, China will still have the most of that population. Sorry, we don't really have a good number on North Korea's regions, but we do know about South Korea, we do know about Japan's, and we do know about China's. As far as bodies goes, Japan is outnumbered. Not to say that Japan probably still doesn't have some force of being skilled, but as far as any form of real practice, it still goes to China. It still does.
To one of them. In case of a missile attack, You have 15 minutes or less to take cover. That's how much time a Chinese or North Korean missile will take to reach Japan, 15 minutes or less. Also, most of the homes in Japan do not have basements. The evacuation centers are largely for natural disasters. Most of them are not underground. Compare this with Taiwan. It has more than 100,000 shelters.
Honestly, they're not built for that. They're not built for those disasters. Let's just look at the kind of disasters that actually do take place in Japan. It's tsunamis, earthquakes, and a freaking nuclear reactor. I don't even think Mount Fuji has acted up like that. So they really don't have any real preparation for things that are going awry. Like, you've had a pretty good run. You had a sweet run. You've been under the quote highest power in on the globe in terms of being protected. And if there was any chance for you to go ahead and start assembling a little bit of allyship between the other areas, like, you dropped the ball. As much as you want to talk about your technology and everything, you may just you kind of casted yourself off and you just been sitting on your own. That's just what it is.
Or Singapore, which is well equipped thanks to its robust rail system. So Japan needs to act urgently. It is moving away from pacificism. The shift began under Shinzo Abe, former prime minister. He said the constitution was imposed on their country by the US. But Japan is still divided on the subject. Prime Minister Kishida initially did not want to revise the constitution, but with threats looming large, he may be changing his mind. He's trying to build an argument for a stronger military. He says it's for the defense of democracy.
It is needless to say that the new measures will stay within the realms of the Japanese constitution, international law, and the domestic law. Japan's adherence to the three non-nuclear principles, the exclusive defense policy, and its progress as a peaceful nation will remain unchanged.
You say that, but that's why you're going out of your way to prepare your people for quote an imminent attack. At least within the next year or so, you're trying to get your shit up. Obviously, with the way how things are going, because the tension is going on in Taiwan, and you guys got missiles that are practically flowing over in different areas, right? Over from North Korea. Like, I get why you guys are a little bit in fear, but at the same time, you may have missed your mark already. You're a little late. And then you're gonna have to ask all your people to actually start funding all that shit. It's touch and go, and you guys are, quite frankly, you're losing. You're losing in that one. You don't even want to look at re-look at the Constitution that quote you say is imposed on you. Really? All right. If you think you can go at it alone, I would say go ahead, but you're gonna have a losing battle. And sorry, the U.S. will not allow another attack from you guys. So you guys are gonna be watching heavily. You're heavily going to be looked at. That's just the end of that.
Our top story is about China. It is widening the war zone against America, it seems. On the 10th of July, 4 Chinese warships were spotted near Alaska. What brought them into America's exclusive economic zone? Is China preparing for war against the United States?
Possibly.
Here's what we know. Early this week, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter was on routine patrol in the Bering Sea when it came across the Chinese military ships. U.S. officials said that the ships were in international waters, but within the U.S. exclusive economic zone. The crew first detected 3 vessels approximately 124 miles, that's 200 kilometers.
So they already playing around out there in the water while they're claiming that it's in the quote international area. It's definitely somewhere where we can end up having a fight, because it's like, why are you here? Oh, we're just out here running drills. We're just out here running tests. Cool. I hope you don't mind that we monitor you then. And at the same time, didn't we also cross out recently into China or whatever, and they were looking at it sideways? So I don't know. Tensions is getting high. They're getting stupid. They're getting high. You don't know what direction people are gonna go. People are being petty right now. And I just gotta say, it's because, quite frankly, we have to look at Putin. We gotta look at Putin because they're the ones that started shit, and not everybody else think that they can turn around and start doing shit as well. From what I see, this is the goal. From what I see, that is the aim. They're running for it. Russia's acting up, and now other people are acting up as well. Well, if they can do it, then I guess I can do it too. To which my words to China is watch yourself. Don't think that you have the same amount of leeway to get away with shit as Russia has. You barely been holding on to a lot of shit. You've already had a whole lot of scrutiny, and I think you've actually taken a bigger hit when it comes to moving around economically than ever Russia has. Are you sure that your bestie is really gonna be able to hold out for you if you really have to worry about the rest of the world? Are you really sure about that? Are you sure about that? I'm just saying. Like I don't think, quite frankly, that you're ready for that. And again, it's just my opinion. Other people might have a different perception of it. For me, I think it's too early for them to be starting shit. It's just the way how I look at it. No Chaser, what's going on? Oh, we got Yvette in here too. Thanks for showing up, guys. I'm gonna be pretty much just doing a chill stream. I'll be looking at a whole bunch of stuff. This is I don't know how long we're gonna be doing this stream. I don't know. There's some things I got going on, some things that I'm thinking about, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think today's a beautiful day, so I'm not sure we're gonna get a pretty good turnout for today.
North of the Amchitka Pass in the Aleutian Islands. A while later, a helicopter aircrew from the Coast Guard Air Station Kodiak spotted the fourth Chinese ship. The chopper spotted the Chinese ship approximately 84 miles or 135 kilometers north of the Amokta Pass. All four Chinese vessels were inside the U.S. exclusive economic zone, which extends 200 nautical miles from the shoreline. The Chinese ships reportedly told the U.S. Coast Guard that the purpose for being there was freedom of navigation operations. The U.S. Coast Guard says that the Chinese naval presence operated in accordance with international rules and norms. They said that they met presence with presence to ensure that there were no disruptions to U.S. interests in the maritime environment around Alaska.
Exactly.
The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Kimball is a 418-foot ship based in Honolulu. The Coast Guard said that there is no requirement for foreign nations to proactively contact a country before entering their exclusive economic zone. In this case, the Chinese vessels responded when the Coast Guard...
So technically, they were within their rights. They were within their rights to get away with that. Again, it puts people on the edge, but technically, they had the right way of doing that. We don't got to say shit to you by showing up in, quote, undisputed territory. But at the same time, it's like, why are you here? And you have 3 ships? 3? All right. Okay. Really close to Alaska too? I mean, we all look at China, right? Once you start going a bit north, you're not really supposed to be near Alaska. You already done past freaking South Korea. Why are you so close to Alaska? What game you playing? Like, come on now.
Reached out on radio. The Coast Guard did not say how long the Chinese ships were in America's exclusive economic zone, but said the Kimball and an air crew monitored the Chinese ships until they transited south of the Aleutian Islands and into the North Pacific Ocean. But the sighting of the Chinese ships came a week after the Chinese Navy began its annual joint patrol with the Russian Navy in the Pacific Ocean. Although the patrol is scaled down from previous years, including last August, when more than 10 ships from China and Russia formed a flotilla off Alaska. But here's why Chinese activities in the North American Arctic have left the U.S. worried. In recent years, China's naval forces have expanded rapidly as Beijing seeks to challenge America's dominance in the world's oceans. In fact, China now has more naval ships than the US, even if they have smaller firepower. The encounter in Alaska...
So, are they running a numbers game? Because I know small ships can take out a frigate. I don't like this, especially at the time where everybody's now talking about Third World War. People are talking about freaking a civil war. Like it's it's too much talk about fighting right now when it comes to the U.S. What's happening? What there's an underlying tone that there's a thread that we quite frankly haven't figured out. There's something happening in the works. Something is pushing for war, war across continents. Something is really pushing for it, and of course, like I can't figure out what the hell it is, but something is for sure pushing it. Whether internally, externally, for some reason, the tensions across the world is that everybody's itching for a fucking fight, not realizing that a lot of people are going to lose. I don't, it's a problem with human beings. They tend to think that they get into a fight and they think they're going to be the only ones that win, but everyone takes losses.
Alaska is a great example of China trying to see just how far they can actually operate without question. China's interest in the Arctic region is consistent with its current geopolitical position and focus on expansionism. Just have a look at what China is doing in the South China Sea. It makes sense that the US question their activities. China has been, in fact, regularly monitoring areas of the Arctic more closely than before. But so does the
Why?
US. The US military routinely conducts what it calls freedom of navigation operations. In disputed waters that China claims as its own, the US deploys Navy ships to sail through waterways such as the South China Sea, saying that freedom of navigation in these waters is in America's national interest. So, you see, when the Chinese
we've been
vessels
messing with them too.
describe what they are doing as freedom of navigation operations, it is Beijing sending a message to the United States. It is China flexing
So are we
its
starting to fight?
muscles by showing up in a part of the world that the US considers part of its sphere of influence. Of course, in the case of the US, these islands are clearly part of the US and not a disputed territory. China's increasing presence in the Arctic has left Washington worried. That and the fact that China and Russia...
It seems like China doesn't even care about the fact that, I guess if you hear Joe Biden, that the U.S. is already, already stated according to the commander in chief that we will defend Taiwan if China gets out of hand. But I also have to agree that, quite frankly, you can't really fly on the words of what's going on when it comes to the White House right now. You can't. I think everything is just going to be touch and go. But that's just my current assessment of what's going on.
Are working together to develop the Arctic shipping routes. Russia wants to deliver more oil and gas to China to counter the increased Western sanctions. Meanwhile, China wants to develop new shipping routes in the Arctic and expand its research in Antarctica. But Western governments are wary of China's ambitions. They worry, basically, that the Chinese army could gain better operational and surveillance capabilities from its polar activities. You see, for years now, China has worked to establish footholds in the region. It would give China access to rich mineral deposits and shipping lanes, as well as a greater say in Arctic affairs. And what's more, Arctic presence would also give China strategic presence in a region ringed by US and several other NATO countries.
Yeah, I'm not falling for it. Keep an eye on their ass. They up to something. The fact that they were not really all that interested until recently. Watch it for a while. Like, it's sketchy. They've had no interest for a long time to be having anywhere near the ice, and now all of a sudden that they are. I'm gonna have to say watch them. Watch them. They're not really for it. I'm not really for it. I already have a big mistrust when it comes to people, and now we're gonna sit there and talk about these guys are gonna do whatever. Nah, I think not. So I got this actual video that popped up, and it came up a few times on my timeline. I was going to start watching into it. Actually, I was starting to get into it, but people are really saying that uh, this speech is really a great one that says the whole world needs to hear. Now, Konstantine Konstantine Kisin is someone that I watch from time to time. No one I follow, but he does have a nice YouTube platform. I forget the other guy that's with him too, but the channel is called Trigonometry. So I've actually played a couple clips already from things that we reviewed on previous streams. So he was up here. He went to a like a kind of like a British something kind of thing, and he was actually giving a speech on it. I haven't really gotten into it, but I want to hear a little bit about it. Just know if it's actually
Hello,
pretty good.
thank you. Alexander Solzhenitsyn once said that the strength or weakness of a society depends more on the level of its spiritual life than on its level of industrialization. If a nation's spiritual energies have been exhausted, he said, it will not be saved from collapse by the most perfect government structure or by any industrial development.
Agree.
A tree with a rotten core cannot stand.
That's what he said.
When he was allowed to leave the USSR, Solzhenitsyn went to the US, where he was given a hero's welcome. But he quickly realized that American society was far from perfect. He started lecturing Americans about the problems he saw. Americans don't like that. Like Solzhenitsyn, I come from the Soviet Union, but I have no intention of repeating his mistake. That's why I've come to Britain. Where you love being told what's wrong with you by foreigners. But I do have to be honest. 6 months ago when Jordan...
That's a yay and a nay, because I do know a couple of people that's from Britain, and they're like, we can't stand the fact that people come over here and they just start complaining about everything, and I'm just like, well, I mean, it's better than, I get, not even better, but I guess it's no different from the fact that there's so many people that think that the U.S. is just so great, and they get here and the first thing they do is start trashing it, which makes things even worse because we already have naturally born citizens here that are trashing their own country. It's disgusting.
And Philippa asked me to come here and speak at ARC about the importance of audacity, adventure, and a positive vision for our civilization. I was honored and delighted. But as I stand here today, after watching crowds openly celebrate mass murder on the streets of our cities, after watching the police spend more time debating Islamic theology on Twitter than enforcing the law, I'm starting to lose faith. I don't know how long our civilization will survive. For years now, many of us have been warning that the barbarians are at the gates. We were wrong. They're inside. Now, look, I'm not going to be all doom and gloom. There are positives as well. I mean, say what you want about Hamas supporters. At least they know what a woman is. But joking aside, I have to be honest, I've been in a dark place these last few weeks. So I did what I always do when I don't know what to do. I talked to my wife. It's not the only time I talk to her, but you know, get the point. And she said, look, you need to clear your mind, take a few days off, let's go on holiday. Right? And I know it's a weird thing to say, I don't like going on holiday, because I love working and I hate spending money. Protestant work ethic in a Jewish man's body.
Oh, that is a lot of people. Trust me, it's not something I like as well. I do not like spending money if I don't need to. If I think it's gonna be something functional, I'm all for it. But if I think it's gonna be a waste, I am absolutely not into it. Why the hell are we going here? Why are we spending much time? How much time do we need to be here? We should be back home. We should be taking care of all the things we gotta take care of. You can easily relax at home. Like, stop. There are plenty of things going on. We didn't have to take this whole trip to do the same things that we could do anywhere else. Like, we relax. Like, calm the hell down. We say he's right. We don't have to fight against political yeah, 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 and that's the same there and everywhere else. All the people that need to be the troublemakers have already been implanted in every sector of every country. That's just the way it is. Like, I'm not fooled for a second. CCD, what's going on? Listen, you don't have to explain it to me. You do your thing, sir. Zoomer, what's going on, man? What's going on?
My wife is exactly the other way around, unfortunately. But she was right. She's always right. That's her best and most annoying quality. So we went to Barcelona, beautiful city. And as we were walking down the main tourist street, La Rambla, many of you will know when you get to the bottom, you hit the Christopher Columbus monument. It looks like a giant column with a pillar of Columbus on top, pointing towards the New World. And this reminded me of my son, Nikolai. He's 16 months, and this is what he does. He sits on my hip and points in the direction he wants to go. Treats me like a horse, basically. And if I don't act quickly enough, or if I don't comply, he does what all toddlers do. He throws a tantrum and starts screaming, "How dare you? You have stolen my dreams with your empty words." And when he does, we read him a story and put him to bed. We don't give him a standing ovation in front of the UN.
But you gotta admit, though, just a little bit, you kind of gave into terrorism, just a little bit.
Anyway, trigger warning, I am going to talk positively about Christopher Columbus. I know he committed some pretty sizable microaggressions, but he also changed the world. Do you know why he changed the world? Yeah, he tried to reach India and by accident discovered America. But why go west to India? Europeans had been trading with India and China for centuries via the Silk Road. Why risk your life to go out on a limb? There were many reasons, of course, but the main one was the decision to try and reach Asia by going west was not made out of choice. Europe was desperate. Only a few decades prior, in 1453, the Ottomans sacked Constantinople and they cut Europe off from the Silk Road. The West was facing a huge challenge and a new threat, no smaller than the one we face today.
I'm trying to figure out what comparison that he's going to put together for that one. He's right. They were cut off from Silk Road. But in what relation would he have from Columbus trying to find a new route to get to India, and the comparisons being made as to what we're going through right now? I don't think it's going to be in relation to what I just mentioned when it comes to Japan. But then again, I don't know. I need one way to find out.
And like us, what they needed was another way. But when Columbus took his idea to go west to India, to the kings and queens of medieval Europe, they laughed at him. They didn't laugh at him because he was some misunderstood genius. He wasn't Galileo. They laughed at him because he was wrong. If you go out in the street and ask a random person why Columbus discovered America, they'll tell you he worked out that the earth was round. Not true. By the time Columbus set off on his voyage in 1492, people had known the earth was round for 2 millennia. There's probably more flat earthers now than there were in the 15th century.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
God bless the internet. The reason Columbus discovered America is not that he'd worked out that the earth was round. The reason is that he massively underestimated the size of the planet. They were right to laugh at him. He was wrong. But he took that wrongness, he persuaded 90 other men to get into 3 boats smaller than the size of this stage and sail into the unknown. And he persuaded Queen Isabella of Castile and King Ferdinand of Aragon to fund his voyage. The moral of the story is, it doesn't matter how wrong you are, as long as you've got rich friends. That's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story.
But I wonder how many people still live by that very concept. There's a lot of people who have funded so many bad ideas to fucking friends who have just taken advantage of their generosity and just throwing shit up against the wall, just hoping that it sticks. It's a funny thing that he says, but there are so many people that got their first businesses started that way after so many business failing because somebody else believed in them so much. It's funny.
The story is the history of our civilization was not made by people who always got everything right. It was made by people who'd made mistakes too. It was made by people who dared to believe that they could solve the problems they faced. The story of the West is a story of audacity. The big debates of the last decade, the culture war, the polarization, are about one thing and one thing only: the future. There are people like us in this room who believe that our future is to be prosperous, powerful, and influential. We are the majority. But there are also some people whose brains have been broken by an excess of education, who believe that our history is evil, that we do not deserve to be great, we do not deserve to be powerful, that we must be punished for the sins of our ancestors. To them, our past is abominable, our present must be spent apologizing, and our future is managed decline. My message to those people is simple. How dare you? You will not steal my son's dreams with your empty words.
You can prove that? You still got some plot of land waiting for you? How royal are you exactly? How far back does this lineage? You said, where exactly on the now when you say it goes back to the kingdom, you mean somewhere in the kingdom? The family crest, like as in saying that you were in the family, or that like someone you know that was part of that time touched the family crest. Like we're like, let's be honest, were they like you say royalty, you claim royalty, but what side of royalty? Like royal blood, or like what's like the bastard side, like like the illegitimate side? Like how much royalty are we talking about? Are we talking about like full blood? Are we talking about like hidden because like there was that infidelity that took place? Like where exactly in that are you? I'm gonna have to just take your word for it because I can't prove it. Obviously, that's a bold claim, though. It's a bold claim. Full blood, full blood. All right, you know, uh, ladies and gentlemen, we are formally requesting a 23andMe from Yvette. No. Here's the thing: we all have a family tree. We just don't all claim to come from royalty. We're formally requesting a 23andMe for Yvette. All right, that's a bold claim, saying that she's a royal descent. You know, listen, she already did. She already did. She already has. She has graced us with her royal presence. Apparently, we'll see. She has a claim to royalty. Apparently. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hate to say this, but neither do the bastards either, because they also have a claim to the royal throne. I just want to put that out there. Just want to put that out there. Saying you got land, you probably got some trinkets and everything, Just saying, but we not going out there to claim that. No. Someone might snatch you up for the DNA, for the blood. All right. All right. I can't prove that you're wrong, and I can't prove that you're right. You claiming that you're right. I'm just saying. It's a little odd that it gets mentioned now, But you know what? I'm gonna just take your word for it. Whatever you say, Your Highness. Whatever you say, Your Highness. Yes, Your Grace. See, the problem with me is that I would actually end up in the same room as you because I'm a scoundrel and we end up in all rooms. I'm a rogue. We end up in all the rooms. When you least suspect it, I'm in your bed chambers. Okay, Your Grace? Just saying.
But Jordan is right. We need a positive message too. So here it is. From the dawn of time, human beings have had to work to make the world a better place. We captured the mystery of fire. We invented the wheel. Today, we build buildings that would shock and awe almost every human being that has ever lived. We split the atom. We spliced the genome. And we connected the world through microcomputers that fit in our pockets, that allow us to do amazing things. This morning, I destroyed someone on Twitter with facts and logic from the toilet. It's magic.
Nice.
Remember your grandparents? Remember them? If I could go back in time and transport the grandparents of your grandparents into this room, just 4 generations ago, they would think they'd been abducted by aliens. That's the progress we've made. We haven't made that progress by whining and acting like victims.
LA and Mayo, what's good? It's good for coming in. So he says goes from a land down under, and Yvette comes from a land up high, apparently. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Lots of claims happening over here now.
We've made that progress by unleashing the creativity and talent of people like us here in this room. But I do think we've forgotten what adventure is. Being adventurous is not ordering extra spicy chicken at Nando's. Wrong reference for this room. Let me try again. Being adventurous is not ordering extra spicy chicken from your personal chef. When Columbus and his men got on those boats and took a journey into the unknown, they sailed to certain death. You know why? It's not because they were braver than you and I. It's because they knew something we've forgotten. All death is certain. And so I say to our friends in the world of business, you've made your fortunes by maximizing your returns on your investments. We are in the fight of our lives. There is no greater return on your investment than to protect and preserve our civilization.
That's well said.
And
that
so I
well
invite
said.
you to follow in the footsteps of Elon Musk and Paul Marshall and Ben Dello and many of you here who are using your fortunes for the betterment of humanity. I say to our friends in the media, truth matters. We are in the fight of our lives. There is more to life than clicks and downloads. Let's move beyond the culture war, where all we do is bat away the litany of slanderous allegations about our history. Let's set the agenda. Let's remind our fellow citizens why we are where we are. Let's remind them that we are the most tolerant, open, and welcoming societies in the history of the world. We're not embarrassed about our past. We're proud of it. And to my colleagues in new media especially, I say this. The legacy media is dying for a reason. They cannot be saved. They cannot be reformed. Let's stop complaining about them and start building the media empires of the future ourselves.
I honestly, I would wholeheartedly believe in that, but let's be honest, we will never be able to have that because no one will trust traditional media to be able to turn it a new leaf and be able to do all the things that they're supposed to do. No one's ever going to trust traditional media again. Hell, recently I just saw Tucker Carlson on a podcast where he said when he was in traditional media working at Fox, he never could. Well, no one did, but he didn't even know that podcasts were a thing. He only discovered podcasts once he left, which is crazy, by the way, because podcasts were definitely a thing while he was still there. But it wasn't until he got fired from Fox and was on his own that he really decided, he really understood what podcasts were. Like, wait, we were losing numbers to people who are just random. They're not celebrities. They're not big brands. They're just regular people talking to each other, just giving their own opinion, and we're losing to them. These guys were still thinking that they were losing to places like uh uh the Late Show or Comedy Central. No, but they were losing to regular everyday folks who just want to make sure that they had a particular opinion about, quite frankly, the lives that they were spinning. And we want to believe that traditional media might catch up. No. In fact, the world that we have now, where people are all able to give their opinions, whether true or not, but the fact of the matter is that we have the option now, rather than just sitting with the brand and just being lied to, we have the option of being able to decipher the truth. I think that's a very important thing. And I think it's a point that he's making here. But as far as shaping it to the right areas, personally speaking, I don't think we're going to be able to overcome that. I don't think that we're going to be able to do that, because I think they're still, with the idea of being able to shape themselves into something that could be, quote, prestigious. It's going to come with a lot of bureaucracy. It's going to come with a lot of a power struggle. I think what we have right now, while we don't know what the next step of that's going to be, it's the best that we have right now.
Ourselves. We have everything we need. We've even got rich friends now. I say to our friends in education and academia, I understand that many of you feel like the French resistance or Soviet partisans, stuck behind enemy lines, undermanned and outgunned. And you're right, we are in the fight of our lives. So keep fighting for every young mind you can. It will be worth it. And finally, I say to our friends in politics, many of you here are conservatives. I'm not. I look terrible in tweed. That's why I identify as politically non-binary. But I can tell you conservatives something. You will never get young people to want to conserve a society and an economy that is not working for them. We will not overcome woke nihilism as long as young people are locked out of the housing market, unable to pair up, unable to have kids, unable to plan for the future.
Right.
I know it's difficult, and I know that whoever solves the housing crisis may well pay the price at the ballot box. This is true of many pressing issues too, or at least you think it is. But you did not get into politics to get re-elected. You got into politics to make a difference.
And I think that is lost. That is lost on, I mean, let's be honest. A good chunk of the people that are still in politics are the boomers. And they lost the concept of that a long time ago. It is to be in power. It is not to make a difference. It is to hold on to whatever power as possible, is to squander it, is to use up whatever you possibly can until it's absolutely gone. It is only to foster the rich. It is only to make deals. The idea of making change to care about the betterment of, oh man, he just laid down fucking work to things that I was already, to the original thing that I was actually trying to script for you guys. The selfishness. It's crazy. Yeah, that's exactly the point. It's all about getting rich. It's not even a matter about the die trying. They're gonna die. They're at the cusp of it. Like, it's going to take place, and the fact that they don't even care. It's just like, we're going to ruin everything because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. It's like, check this out. It's like, I have to believe that what they believe is that they have no faith. They don't believe in God. Because some of the things that they do, it's like they have to think that there's no God because they don't believe in doing any good work before they go. They're like, I'm going to take as much as I can, and I don't give a fuck about who I railroad, whatever, because when I'm gone, It's just lights out and that's it. I don't think that there are a lot of these people who think that they're going to quote the kingdom of heaven, which is why they have no problem ruining a society, because it's like, let me just get as much as I can, every last drop until I drop. That's the way I look at it. As far as looking after the rest of the world, they don't care if the rest of the world burns, because to them, they won't be around to see it. I think a lot of those people who are still in power, who at their last rung, they're riding it just like that. They're not thinking about what they can leave over to other people. So he makes a great point, and I really think it hinges on that selfishness that they're running with.
We are in the fight of our lives. And if courage means anything, it means doing the right thing and being willing to take the punishment if you have to. Let me say it again. All death is certain. We do not get to choose whether we live or die. We only get to choose whether we live before we die. Thank you very much.
How excellent.
So it's funny. You sent me that, right? And I already had it. I still haven't looked through it. So you're sending it me from the professor, but I still haven't even seen it from Piers Morgan himself. So it's actually up here, to be honest with you. It should be one of my videos, because it's been on my timeline for a little while now. It's just somewhere. But yeah, I was actually watching it earlier. I was actually watching it earlier today, trying to figure out what was the point where everything went crazy. I just never actually got to the point. I never got to the point where Destiny was at. So I was actually watching it earlier today before I stepped out, and I came back in, and I never got to it. But then the one that you're showing me is from, he's the professor who breaks down conversations. And actually, now that you bring it to my attention, I actually would like to know what his perspective is on it, because I think he really is. I think he really is good at articulating conversations. So, but I haven't even heard really what Destiny said. I just know people have been saying it, and I'm like, people have been reviewing it, and I'm like, I don't know what he said. I don't really want to get other people's perspective without having my own first. So I guess I would try to go to somewhere where, oh, no, actually, it's really close by. So all right, let me go from here, and we'll hear what Destiny had to say.
Calling him Hitler and his supporters Nazis. What would someone do if they truly believe that? I'm not directly linking this to Biden's bullseye comment, as irresponsible as it may be, or anyone else's specific comment. But over time in culture, if things get normalized, and yes, this man is going to put us in camps, and you can turn on MSNBC on any given day, and they're talking about how they're all going to be arrested and taken off the air, and what he's going to do to minorities and gays and everything else, all utter complete nonsense. At some point, people might get a subtle message and then do something crazy. Again, we don't know if that was what happened right now, but we certainly can ask about it.
And I think, to be completely fair, I believe Donald Trump has spouted a lot of very ill-advised and occasionally very dangerous rhetoric. And I want both sides to dial it down, because actually where this leads to is where it's led to. And in Britain, we've had 2 members of parliament in the last 10 years murdered by people for political reasons, basically because, lunatics have wanted to eliminate them. Let me bring in Destiny, because you've been at the center, as you know,
here we go,
of a massive online response to what you were saying. And
I'm going to prep myself for this one. People have said I've seen different faces of people giving their, and I'm like, I'm not going to watch it. Not till I see it myself. So here we go.
I want to go through what you said, and I want to talk to you about this hopefully in a calm manner, to try and understand what you were thinking. So on Saturday evening, hours after the shooting, you said, let me clarify, when I say conflicted, what I mean is I lean towards seeing it as a natural extension of the thing Trump and the MAGA kids support. So I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt enough to chastise people celebrating it.
No longer feels
you couldn't
lonely
find it
and isolated
in your heart to chastise people for celebrating the near assassination of a man who was president of the United States, and maybe again?
Absolutely not. Conservatives have completely bled that well dry
And the idea that they, after engaging in the most divisive and most extreme rhetoric that this country has seen in recent history, that they would come on and beg for sympathy, that it's escalated into some kind of violent confrontation is absolutely insane. Even the idea right now of saying, well, if you call somebody a Nazi for so long, it's, what do you expect people to do? I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh call Obama a communist every single day he was on the radio. You've got conservatives that talk about how the mRNA vaccines were ways to sneak microchips into us. You've got COVID lockdowns that were done because the government was trying to take all your freedom away. They won't acknowledge anything that happened on January 6th. They say that the election was stolen and that your country is being taken from you. Like, I don't think anybody should be killed. I don't think anybody should go out and kill anybody. But when you engage in this type of rhetoric and when you turn the temperature up over and over and over and over again, there is absolutely no room for you to be shocked or surprised. And there certainly isn't room for you to ask for sympathy.
But Destiny, you say you don't want anybody killed, and yet you say, I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt to chastise people celebrating it. It's people celebrating the near assassination of Donald Trump. If you can't find it in you to chastise people who do that, aren't you just as despicable as the people you've just spent the last 2 minutes haranguing?
I agree with Piers there. You're actually part of the problem. Are we really going to go so gung-ho on, quote, just being a Democrat, or rather just, like, the thing about Destiny is that I never know if he's actually serious or not. There are plenty of times where he makes pretty salient points, and the other times I just think he's being a contrarian for the fucking hell of it. But lately, as he's been moving around, especially as he's been more and more on Piers Morgan, I'm like, the fuck are you saying? Because when he has regular debates with other people, sometimes he can make a really good point. Actually, I would say there were a few times, but maybe it's just it's the matter of the kind of context that he's having with particular people. Like, it's different between the debates that he's having with people who are on streams versus that of people who are literally in the political realm. Because I think I mean, not even think. He's rather one-sided when it comes to politics, but he can be rather nuanced when it comes to actual other discussions. And I think this is where he falls off in the debate sphere. Whenever he gets into politics, it just seems like it goes wrong, because it's not really his realm, and yet he's trying to find himself there. So then he just releases off the wall shit, and I think that's where he's getting nailed.
No, because they've led the way. This is the environment that they've created.
So you think behaving like the people you think are despicable is the correct course of action?
Not about behaving like the people who are despicable would be leading that type of rhetoric. It would be denying every single bad thing. How many times as a liberal? How many times as a liberal have you been on a show? Not you in general, but like a liberal been on a show and you've been forced to disavow all of the BLM riots, disavow all of the violence, and blah blah blah. And then you talk to conservatives about it. January 6th,
violence.
that was
That's
a false
good.
flag.
Yeah.
January 6th. Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied. There's an entire
we just saw it in real time. That's it.
What?
That's why conservatives deserve absolutely zero sympathy for anything that happens as a result of their rhetoric. That's it. It's so easy. Like, it's so simple.
Okay, but
I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I would say this is the type of person that the internet has broke their brain, thus leaving them with very little empathy for their co-human. I mean, a good, decent father is now dead because of this. He's had his brains blown out because he was defending his wife and daughter. I would hope that you have a little empathy for that.
Well, let me jump in there, because we have a clip of what Destiny has said about that.
I wonder, so since Dave has already asked him about that, I wonder if Destiny will actually give a response to that particular question.
Very thing. Let's listen to this.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude, the firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay, just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away or whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am, 100%.
I mean, I got to say, I just found that repulsive.
I wholeheartedly don't agree, but I'm not surprised that it would be destined to say shit like that, because he said things crazy like that in the same kind of tone. This didn't make a lot of sense at all. That was unnecessary. You fucking know better. That didn't make there's no justification for it. That's the issue. That that piqued my what the fuck are you doing bar. And I agree. He should be called out for shit like this. The question here's the thing: being called out, is that technically enough? Because being called out is one thing, but who's holding him accountable? I mean, like I said, he's been showing up a lot more when it comes to like Piers Morgan's show, and Piers Morgan is definitely gonna bring him back on because, quite frankly, Destiny is making the rounds, and while he's saying stupid shit that that's insightful, it's not to say that he is a stupid person. It's just like I think that you should be limiting your ideas of where you want to be. Like Destiny is into politics, but I don't think he's the proper person who should be always having a political discussion. Like he will bring up some things about other things like with religion or um, medicine or things like that. I think that he'll research, but at the same time, he's also been blasted for being someone who just does a bunch of research. He's not actually a specialist at practically anything. Am I going to say that the guy is smart? He is. But is he saying stupid and dumb shit? Absolutely. And this is one of those places. This is one of those times. Like for someone who likes to say that people say things that are completely insane and unhinged is one of his favorite, phrases. That, sir, was absolutely unhinged. That was something that was strictly on party lines. That was something you can absolutely say had no business coming out of your mouth whatsoever. Not at all. Mm. I wonder what else dumb shit that might fly out, whether him or anyone else, for just in response.
Destiny.
I wish that there is no room. There is no room for the hand wringing, and I will not participate in this anymore.
Oh, it's not hand wringing.
The hand wringing. No,
it
absolutely is.
No, it's just that you are positioning yourself.
So well.
No, but but Destiny, let me explain to you.
Where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a conservative.
They can have any conspiracy theory.
I'm not a conservative.
They can have any plot. They can do anything, and then liberals are supposed to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, it's so tragic."
No, Destiny.
Absolutely not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position because I'm not a conservative. I'm not on either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children.
So here's my thing. I'm actually, we agree. As far as advertisers go, I haven't watched Destiny for a little bit now. I would say I've watched him for about maybe about 2 months now. So I don't really know what he gets in terms of advertisers. He's been building up his own thing lately. Like I know he started his own podcast with the guy who already works with. But so I don't know about advertisers, but I do know he's made enough money where he's able to start a lot of his own shit. Not to mention he does get money from all of these speeches and talks that he does, where he travels, and so he's getting money from all kind of other areas as well. But his respecting the fact that he has the right to say it doesn't mean I need to respect exactly what he says. There were so many ways that he could have said things. He could have, you know what? Here's the funny part about it. If he had simply said what he said about the Trump shooting, I would have let it rock. It's when he brought the other innocent bystanders that were there into it That's where it's distasteful. That's where it's absolutely appalling. And as much as we should demand more, we should demand not more. We should demand better. It's also within his right to be a complete douchebag. It's within his right to be a complete asshole 1000%. It's well within his right to be despicable. Then again, he could just be doing it for the fact of being salacious, because quite frankly, like I have felt in a lot of different circles, he's also comfortable with being a villain.
Who he was protecting as he was shot dead. That he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally, a man who was President of the United States until recently for 4 years and maybe again. You sound almost gleeful, Destin, and I'm sorry, that makes you, frankly, despicable.
I don't think I'm gleeful about anything. I don't think anybody should die. I don't think anybody deserves to die. But you want to talk about gleeful? Look at the conservative response to Pelosi's husband when they broke in.
I can answer that.
Mainstream media figures
I can answer that.
I don't care.
I can answer that.
With all due respect, I don't care what your answer is.
Let me answer that.
The reality is that conservatives have been turning the temperature up on the rhetoric. They have been making fun of these types of events for years, and now when something happens to them, now they're looking for sympathy from the liberal side. Absolutely not. It's insane. It's unhinged that you can conduct yourself in such a manner and expect people to feel sorry when things.
We don't know what that husband's quote manner was, conservative or not. You took someone who had you're talking about someone whose actual position outside of the fact that you can actually, if you want to say that he's a conservative, because quite frankly liberals are about to freaking vote for Trump as well. But your issue is that the issue that you're also bringing to the table is that the fact you have no idea really what this man's verbal statements were, verbal positions were prior to him losing his life. You can say that about Trump. You can. Like, for instance, the Secret Service people, they have to do their job. That doesn't mean they have to take a bullet for the president. They took a bullet for the president. Just because the Secret Service has to be there, and that's the president. But if they have to take a bullet for Trump, they have to take a bullet for Trump. That doesn't mean that the Secret Service agents who have to do their job were conservative. The Secret Service agents were conservative. That's not what it means. Like, but if the Secret Service person was shot and they lost their life, would you be advocating to say the same shit? Like, that's just a question. It's a scenario with a question posed. Would you be saying the same shit? And I got a feeling that for the sake of context, for the sake of just doubling down, you would actually do that. Because I've seen you be salacious for the hell of it. That's just my thoughts, though.
Things happen.
Why should anybody on the right listen to a word of your hectoring and lecturing about how they should behave? And by the way, for the record, the mockery of Nancy Pelosi's husband when he was attacked by an intruder with a hammer was also despicable, right? I can see despicable behavior on all sides, and I'm happy to call it out when I see it. You, however, want to present yourself as this great kind of standard bearer of decency who sees outrageous behavior on the right time and again and is incensed by this disgusting, inhumane behavior. And yet time and again, since the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, you have displayed exactly the same kind of inhumane behavior. Fuck him about a fireman who is killed because he attends a rally of a guy he wants to vote for.
My issue with the MAGA kids is not that they are not empathetic. My issue is that they support a president that led an insurrection against the United States. I'm not here to tone police over their empathy.
80 million people voted for Donald Trump last time around.
That's great. 80 million people voted for a guy that tried to insurrect the government, and it looks like they might try to do it again. I mean, like, I don't know what you want me to say. These are the facts on the ground. The idea that
you don't like attacks on democracy. So presumably you would unreservedly condemn the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, because that's one of the most egregious attacks on American democracy.
Honestly speaking, I think from where he's getting at, from what he's doing, it wouldn't have mattered. What if both the parents were liberals? They're Democrats. Now you don't have to say liberals, because you can be quote a liberal conservative. You can be a Democrat conservative. I don't know why people pretend like you can't be. Just like you can be a conservative who has liberal ideologies as well. But what if they took their kid, because quite frankly, they are very much on the Democratic side, but their kid chooses that they want to be, What if it's this way? What if it's this way? What if they are the people who are absolutely staunch Democrats and they believe all this stuff about Trump, and maybe they're having an inside war, and I'm making a whole new scenario the same way how you're making this question. It's a whole big scenario at the dinner table, and the kid, and maybe it's not even a young kid. We're talking about like a college kid. Like, what if it's a college kid and he has his own views, and they're having a war with the dinner table, and they're like, I bet you that if we went towards a Trump rally and you really heard him speak, you would feel differently. If you spoke to other people who were there, who also, that you would understand that they're not all insurrectionists, that they're people who have families, that they all believe in different stuff, that the rallies are safe and the rallies or whatever. And you know what? The parents turned around and said, prove us wrong. We'll go with you. And what if they went to the rally, right? And all things being considered, the shots rang out or whatever, and it was the Democratic parents who got hit. Do I want to believe that Destiny might still say that same shit? I believe so. I believe so. Plain and simple. I believe so. Because in my estimate, he would say, there's no way they could have been Democrats. Why the fuck would they be there? That's the way I would see that scenario coming out. There's no way that they could have been Democrats and would have been there to support that man. When the truth of the matter is that they were there to support their son and to gain a little bit of enlightenment. And then they will probably be even shamed or denigrated for the fact that they were trying to get enlightened. That's my quick conspiracy theory going into that whole scenario. That's just my thing.
Of modern times. Presumably, you will take this opportunity, given you are so determined to protect the integrity of democracy, you would find it absolutely outrageous that someone has tried to assassinate a president, right?
If the other conservatives on this show want to say that it was absolutely outrageous that Donald Trump attempted to coup the government,
I'm asking you.
Then maybe I would. Yeah, no, I'm not going to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness or show sympathy to conservatives.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to condemn what happened as an egregious attack on democracy. Can you do that?
No, I won't. No, I won't.
You can't do that. You see, so why the hell, frankly, Destiny,
absolutely not.
Why the hell should we listen to a word you have to say about...
Hold on. Why do you think conservatives haven't been listening to a word that liberals have said about anything for 8 years?
Right,
what do you think is going to change? You think if liberals come out now and they go, oh my God, this was so horrible, you think they're going to go, wow, that is true. Maybe that's why should also like...
Charlie, I'll bring you in at the end of this, I promise you, and you'll get a good chance to respond. But here's my problem, Destiny, with your whole position on this, right? Is that you don't actually have anything inside you that you want the other side to have. You don't have any of the empathy. You don't have any sympathy. You don't care that someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump. You don't care that a young fireman with a family was killed in the process. You don't actually. You are not the person you want these other people to be. And all you do is play whataboutery with every question I give you. And I'm just startled.
It's not what about it. We're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about the temperature of this country. But here's a question for the two panelists. What percentage of this event happening was due to Donald Trump's rhetoric? What do they think the answer to that question is?
What percentage could it be that the other side, as we've just heard from Dave Rubin, has spent 8 years calling Donald Trump the new Adolf Hitler, a person who was responsible for the murder of 12 million people, including 6 million Jewish people in a Holocaust. Last time I checked, Donald Trump hasn't murdered 12 million people. So much as you would like him to be the new Hitler, he's not. But again, to an impressionable young deranged mind who has easy access to guns, that can be easily interpreted as an existential threat, said President Biden. Somebody that needs to be put in the bullseye, said Biden.
Okay,
only last week. And guess what? Guess what? Somebody then comes forward and tries to kill the existential.
And the reason why I say no, is because Piers wants to come off as someone who is, quote, fair. By kicking someone off because they have either extreme views would not be considered fair. You would be very much biased. He needs to hold a fair point to say that whether we agree or not, because look at it this way. How would it look for him to kick off Destiny, but he wouldn't kick off the likes of Andrew Tate, who's been on his show twice, 3 times now? How would it look? It would be crazy. So no, he kicking Destiny, not giving Destiny any airtime would not seem fair and balanced for his show. And he wants to have as many people, whether extreme views or whatever, just to have that debate. Because quite frankly, if it means that being in a position to be the one to actually put them in their place, you can't do that if you don't give them airtime. You know, you want, and you also want to put them in a position where you give them enough rope to hang themselves. No, you said no. I don't mean or kick them off. Well, uh, it depends on what we mean by a lot of airtime. Um, Destiny's only been getting on Piers Morgan as what, this year, and I think Destiny's been on two. No, this might be his fourth or fifth time now that I think about it. But like I said, uh, Andrew Tate's been on like I think 3 times now. No one's calling for him not to be on it, and no matter how you look at it, Destiny is not the most quote one of the most looked up people on YouTube. Not YouTube, but on Google. So you have to allow people to have their particular views. Hell, Pearl has been on his shows like fucking 5 times now. Well, what does Pearl have to really contribute? Nothing. Nothing. And yet she's been up there in so many segments now. I think she's been on more segments than actually Destiny now. So everybody has, as long as Piers wants to hold a show where he feels like as long as you're able to hold your weight, do so, then I think he needs to do that. And I think if it comes down to a point where a person's just being extremely unreasonable, then do so. Then you can have that discretion. But I don't think right now, as much as inflammatory as it is, I don't think Destiny's crossed that line. It's not like he's threatening people or whatever. So, he's still exercising, quote, his First Amendment. He's not saying, like, if it was me, I would shoot them in the head. Then we'd have to talk. If he was talking about acts of violence, but if he's saying if they died, I don't care, I'm gonna let that slide. I would personally let that slide. And that's just me though. If I'm thinking about a show that I'm on, if I was on a show, CCD, if you were on the show, whatever, and you came up here and you were saying, let's just say we had a panel of people who were talking, whatever, and you were like, hey, listen, and then you were like, you know what? If something happened to so and so, I wouldn't care. Cool. That's a lot different than you being like, and if I ever saw you in the street, I would shoot you in the head. Or, if I saw you as on site, that's a different thing altogether. So I'm not hearing about any actual personal threats of violence, but he's saying if something happened, they probably deserved it. I don't like it, but it's not a matter what I like. He has his right to exercise that. That's just the way how I look at it. That's just me. If I wanted to actually have a fair and balanced show where people are actually able to expound their position, because at the end of the day, he's standing on it. He's standing on it. He has not backed down. So, yeah, Destiny does have its own platform. He doesn't, but at the same time, it's not like Piers needs him. Destiny is still gonna travel to do all kind of stuff. He's still gonna battle all kind of other people. He's already battled intellectually with renowned people that I never thought that he would even have the opportunity to be sitting in front of. But lo and behold, he has. So again, we have to take the feelings component out of it. We just have to really battle him on what he says. We literally have to attack the message and not necessarily the messenger, even though it's coming from his fucking mouth. And that's just the way how I look at it. You have to destroy his points to make him look bad. You can't really, we can't turn around and do what like other people have tried to do and they ultimately fail. Well, how do you feel about such and such and such? And then we start saying that he's a cuck. Like that's just not the way to go. That's not the way to go about it. You have to attack his point. How could you say that and such and such and such the same way how Piers has been doing it, which is the right way to do so. Everything else would actually just be a hit on them. It will be an indictment on their characters, not necessarily that of Destiny's. We have to look at it that way. You got to meet him really where he's at. Yeah, but that's not the way it works on political panels, and we all know this. If all four of them were up there yelling and screaming their heads off, that's exactly what we would see because political shows have shown to be like that, you know. And quite frankly, we see it actually on YouTube shows as well. We see it on YouTube shows. We allow that shit until someone turns around and says stop because the audience can't listen. But let's be honest, political shows have been doing it for years, for decades, because no one can take a look at the viewers and say they can't hear anything. You know, it is what it is. That's what it is.
Divisive rhetoric. Who has engaged in more divisive rhetoric over the 8 years? If you had to guess, if you had to assign a rough percentage,
again, you're playing whataboutery. Again, you're deflecting.
It's not whataboutery.
Just as Joe Biden did last night. Just as Joe Biden did with Lester Holt on NBC last night. Every time he was asked, "Have you done any soul searching about your own rhetoric, your own ill-advised use of language?" He deflected it back to attacks on Trump. And you're doing exactly the same thing with Republicans.
And I will do the exact same thing.
You say Republicans are...
You want Biden
you say that they are lacking in...
comment when Donald Trump was saying Second Amendment people could maybe do something about Hillary Clinton. Like, no, it's absolutely deranged. The double standard that's being asked here is insane. And you heard both of them say it earlier. How much did Donald Trump's rhetoric contribute to the current environment? Oh, not much at all. Like, no, yeah, I'm not going to say anything to these people. Of course not.
You see, Destiny,
seem oddly unversed in any of the current events that have happened over the last couple of years. First off, politics is downstream from culture, right? And what has happened to our culture in the last 8 years? What has happened to our culture is that the mainstream media has lied about everything, always to the detriment of right-leaning people, whether it is the Russia hoax or COVID or Brett Kavanaugh's a serial rapist or the Covington.
Sorry. What I was saying is that adults for a long time have been doing that. That's the reason why they're getting on politics in the first place. It's about the things that they love. It's about the things that they're excited about, policies, finance, what's going to be happening for the future, all of that stuff. So adults have been watching politics for the same thing that you can say that, you know, the young kid, the housewife, the Kardashians are like. They like the yelling and the screaming. They like it when a Destiny and say a Dave Rubin are out there battling with each other and say, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot. You sound like a clown. You know, it's not like they're ever doing something inflammatory, like throwing drinks at someone or saying, you know, that's why your daddy don't get no pussy. Like they don't do that. So, you know, it's respectable debating. I just repeated everything I just said beforehand, but you didn't hear it because I was on mute. But yeah, that is just simply that thing. What the kids see now is what they will grow up later to respect and take it entertainment in when it comes to politics. They don't do it now because, quite frankly, they're just not into politics. But when they get older, they'll get into politics and they'll be excited about the same old shit, the same thing that they're seeing right now. Because, quite frankly, this is the world that we're in now. Before the internet, we had to get all these people and pretty much try to sit them in the room together. And we still wouldn't have them pitch drinks at each other. I don't ever recall seeing someone, not to say it never happened. You have to have somebody who's a little bit more versed in this than I am. But I don't recall ever hearing about drinks being pitched at each other while sitting at the anchor desk, you know?
Covington kids are racist, or Jesse Smollett was hoaxed, was lynched, or whether it was very fine people on both sides. Every single lie always goes against right-leaning people. So they are slightly annoyed and distrustful of people like you and other people in mainstream media who lie about literally everything. So perhaps
literally
their
everything,
empathy,
like biolabs and
perhaps
Nazis in Ukraine, or like mRNA vaccines that are
there are
causing
Nazis in
20%
Ukraine.
excess deaths. There it is. Yeah, or the fact that COVID lockdowns were going to go on forever, and it was just an authoritarian abuse of power. Or yeah, of course. Like, come on, dude. Conservatives are masters of misinformation, and it's happening right here.
All right, let me
There's
bring
a
in.
refusal
Let me
to
bring
accept-
in.
Yeah.
Let me
Well, I
bring in.
think-
Let me bring
Can I
in
say
Charlie. He's been
something?
waiting very patiently. Charlie, thank you for being so
Please.
patient. Things have obviously got quite heated quite quickly.
Time
Let me
for the
give you
moral
your
grandstanding.
chance now to have your say after what you've been hearing from Destiny.
Here's your chance, baby girl.
Yeah,
Here's your
well,
chance.
first of all, Destiny represents to me a certain subsect of the left, I won't call it everybody, who likes to bully others into saying exactly what they want to hear. And if they don't say it, then you all of a sudden are the problem. And they handle it exactly like he's been handling it on the show. It's like a child throwing a temper tantrum. You can't get a word in edgewise. They just kick and scream and yell until you ultimately say, I've had enough, just say what you want to say and back down. And that's exactly what we see a lot of times from people on the left. And it infuriates me, because just like we saw on Saturday with the near assassination of Donald Trump, which that is exactly what it was. It was an assassination attempt, yet we have, Dave, like you mentioned, all of the mainstream media putting out egregious headlines such as from CNN, Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president and crowd, which completely...
Breaking news.
I was hoping that she was going to do something to try to protect her position, CCD. She didn't. She said everything that pretty much she wanted to get off her chest earlier that she couldn't say, but I was hoping that she would do something, because now I got a good feeling that Destiny's gonna lay into her. Now that she had a time to finally exhale, it may not go well for her. Hopefully she can find a way to sneak it in there.
Headlines
mistells
were
what
100%
actually happened.
accurate. Here it is. This is the conservative. This is the game
It is
right
n-
now.
it
It's
is
being
not
played right in front
accurate.
of us. It's the lies right now. You know, Fox News ran that same
Listen,
type of
first
headline,
of all,
right?
we are
You
we
do
are
know Fox
allowed
ran the same
we
type
are
of headline,
allowed
right?
in this country to ask questions. There was a lot of things that were very off on Saturday,
And other
from the
people are
way
allowed
that
to
the
call you
Secret
an idiot
Service
for it.
handled.
So, you know, I love this country. God bless, I guess. Yeah.
You can see. There you go. He immediately
I know,
resorts
yeah,
to,
here
and
we
we're
go.
allowed
Yes.
to call you
Yeah,
an
here we
idiot.
go.
And that is
Quoting a
exactly the
breaking news
childish
headline as
demeanor
evidence.
that I'm
let me
speaking
jump
about.
in.
Baby girl needed to push past it. He said something, she got caught, and she couldn't finish it. You gotta roll off your back, baby girl. You gotta keep going. He hit you with a line, and you got flustered, and you lost your spark. You lost the will to fight. And I hate to say this, but here's the thing, and I'll say this as someone who likes to watch the debate spheres. Keep in mind, because we see these panels where we see people argue with each other, but these are not debate spheres. They're not. I watch a lot of the people that hang around Destiny circles and other people that's in the debate spheres, like real people who put in a lot of effort, people who have like big degrees, who do big studies. Like, I watch a lot of these people, right? They debate. And when they debate, it's not like a practiced, quote, formal debate. These political panels are the closest things to formal debates. Closest things. If you've ever been to a formal debate, you get time. It's like playing chess. You have time. You have to make your move. Click. So you may get some questions. Click. You get back on. You say your thing, whatever the case may be. You make your point. Click. People put their other stuff into it. You have to hear everybody else's point and what their suppositions and whatever have to click. You do your thing. It's very structured. Now, when it comes to the political ones, you can only put your time. You're only supposed to get your time in when the host gives you your time. That's why you get the single window or you get the split screen or whatever. Because when it comes to a clusterfuck, and which looks like a regular panel that we start seeing all over in Clubhouse and in YouTube and in wherever else, like when everybody just starts yelling, you just start seeing a bunch of talking heads, just everybody's going off, and everybody's just like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on because everybody's going crazy. But in the debate sphere, you can literally argue back and forth with each other. up to your highest octave that you can get out of your voice. Cursing each other out. Well, I don't know cursing each other about, but at least insulting each other. I don't know about cursing each other out, but literally getting passionate and going on a back and forth about a whole bunch of different stuff. You'll see that in the debate sphere. Maybe I gotta find like stuff of like I'll give the example of well people will definitely like and they'll argue like people being childish, people like the debate sphere is literally between people who actually know how to debate and between because here's the truth of the matter. Just because you may be good, you may be a smart person and be able to articulate your point doesn't mean that you're a good debater. You can be smart, doesn't mean you know how to debate. Your knowledge and everything could be on point, but your communication skills will suck. It will suffer. And to be in the debate sphere doesn't mean that you need to be the smartest, but you should at least have some form of communication. Because if your communication skills sucks, they will crucify you. They'll crucify you. Some people are trying to bring that more. Some people try to bring that more structured point, but that's only been a recent, and they're failing at it. But the debate sphere is it's a rough place to be in. It really is, because you have to be able to hold it, and you have to be able to talk about almost anything. Like politics, the political ones, you're only really talking about politics. The debate sphere, you have to really talk about anything, and you have to be all right to hold some kind of ground, because it's really running off of just intelligent, and if not, what you can figure out on the point at the time to hold ground, because it has to be centered around what we consider to quote be at least at the very basis common sense that we can all agree on. Listen, you throw the sand in your opponent's eye. It's like that. It is like that, because the truth of the matter is that if you don't throw the sand in your opponent's eye, they're gonna throw it in yours. It's whoever's quick. Sometimes you and your opponent could be getting ready to make the same point. Whoever's quickest gets to claim that point. Whoever's the fastest gets to claim that point. Because if you say it right after that person already made that point, they're gonna say, "You're just stealing my point. You're just saying what I said," and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. So you really got to be on it. The rest of these things like you see panels or whatever, they're not even really debates. Some people try. Most of them they're just arguing, because it's not really based on a lot of information as it is based on pride. And I'm not even really trying to hold that, but what I mostly see is pride, because most of the people who I see in these quote debate panels or whatever, they're mainly just guys with egos. While the debate spheres I've even seen a lot of women debate each other, debate other guys, whatever, and it can be a nasty, knockdown, drag out. But what I love about it is that I do see the women hold their weight, and on these other panels that we see, especially the relationship sphere, these women they don't hold their panel. They don't hold water. They don't hold sand. It's no. They are soft as wet dog shit. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And it's hard. It's hard. When I see a big knockout, dragged out, or argument happening back and forth, but I'm like, I can hear both points and understand both points, and I'm laughing. And I'm like, he's got a point. No, he's got a point. Oh shit, that was pretty good. Oh damn. It's only when people start getting petty that you're like, oh, okay, time to go away. Time to go away now, because now we're off the mark. Well, that's the thing about a debate. Quite frankly, I think the strongest people who are able to get into debates can argue for things that even necessarily they don't believe. Because the thing about morality is that and I'll just say it for myself, because some people don't believe it. I don't know why, even though we have it defined. Morality doesn't just mean good things. Morality doesn't mean just positive. Because I'll say, like, all ethics is not positive. Not all morality is positive. We can't justify everything that we consider to be moral. Just like we can't justify everything that we consider to be ethic. So if you can find yourself a really good debater, you will argue a point that you absolutely don't believe in. But that's the position you've been put in. It's like what we say when they're on the porch and all of a sudden you got like Uncle Tom and even OG arguing for cops. It may not necessarily be the position they want to be in, but that's the position they chose. So they're gonna defend it. And that's the real hallmark of someone who's getting into debate. There are people that they just want to argue morally, but they can't argue on someone else's behalf, even if they don't believe in it. Some people just only want to argue from their position because they're only arguing from an echo chamber. And honestly, it takes a certain mindset to want to argue your enemy's position. It takes a special kind of someone to do that, because not everybody can do it, and I'm sure they can't do it well. To do it and not be begrudgingly about it, you do it even though you know you don't like it, but you do it well anyway. It's like these lawyers that we look at. Nobody wants to represent criminals. I don't think people really went out of their way to say, I want to represent criminals. But you got to respect them, because when they turn around and they do it to the utmost. I know this is a terrible motherfucker. But he hired me. It's my job. So I'm going to do my damnedest to get him off. That's it. And I as much as I don't like it, I respect the game. Because it's not a matter of morality. It's a matter of skill. And skill is just a matter of repetition. Oh, but this YouTuber making friends with didn't have my life. And plenty of, well, that's the thing. I would say that a lot of people who are genuinely just doing things because they actually just like doing this, they're looking for followers, because part of the recognition comes with followers, or subscribers, I should say. But only specific people are looking for clout. Not everybody who wants subscribers, who wants followers, are looking for clout. There's a specific person that's looking for clout, who's just looking to be, who's looking for that crowd. And that's why we got to make the distinction between who's who.
On Saturday,
Don't talk over each other. Let me just ask you this, Destiny. You were asked on that clip we played earlier if you'd have the same attitude if it was your parents who'd been killed at a Trump rally. And you replied, it's less end-of-life costs for me. Would I lose sleep over it? No. Do you understand how grotesque that sounds?
It sounds grotesque, but the environment that we're in right now is grotesque.
But why do you want to sound grotesque? I don't understand.
You cannot engage in behavior that leads us to this point, that brings us to the precipice, and then say, wait a second, wait, are you taking this a little bit too far?
So just to be clear, hang on, Dave.
We are exactly here
just to be clear,
because of what conservatives have said.
Just to be clear, Destiny,
here we are.
If it was close members...
Who's Pearly Things homeboy? Piers Morgan or Destiny? Because I don't think you mean Dave Rubin. I don't think Dave Rubin's spoken to her. Oh, I appreciate it. No problem. Do what you got to do. Because if I'm correct, he has. Yeah, she's been on like 5 or 6 shows with Piers Morgan now. So yeah, if you want to say that's her homeboy, yeah.
If your family or close friends who had gone to that Donald Trump rally and who'd lost their lives, one did and 2 are critically wounded, if they had died there, you would lose no sleep over that. Is that your position?
No, of course I would be sad. It would be tragic, of course. And the closer they are to you, the more sad it would be. The same way that if you had a child that, tried to rob a store and the child got killed by the police, that would also be tragic and sad.
So you wouldn't think fuck them because they're your family then? You'd have a different rule for your own loved ones.
Would I feel more upset if a person very close to me died rather than a person farther away from me died? Yeah, I think the answer there is yes.
Yeah, but you weren't just just to be clear, you weren't just not upset by the death of that firefighter who'd given great service as a firefighter to his country. You were gleeful and you said, fuck him. fuck him.
I'm not. It's
Would
not
you
about
say
being gleeful.
fuck
It's
them
about
if
saying
it was
it's
your
about
family and
it's about
friends?
Because
saying
it was a
it's-
Trump
I would
supporter.
I would say that if they go to a rally like this and they support an insurrectionist president and something happens to them, I would feel sad on a personal level because they're my parents. But again, I learned from them more than anyone else. I grew up in Nebraska. You learn that if you mess around and if you do dumb stuff, that there are going to be consequences.
And would
for
you
that.
think?
If
And would you
anybody
think?
told
All
me
right.
that it was my
And
parents.
would you be happy to say,
His-
you know what,
his
fuck
rhetoric-
them, about your own
His
parents?
rhetoric is far more dangerous than I've ever heard anything that Donald Trump said. What he's saying right there, he is saying you should have no empathy or sympathy for your fellow human. You know, we can all disagree. We can disagree about politics, of course.
That's
and
crazy.
we can
China
disagree about
doubled
how the
down.
media frames things and
This is
everything
the
else.
illusion.
But
This
he's
is the
basically
delusional
saying,
statements that conservatives
show
make.
up to a rally and get killed, and that is absolutely psychotic. I'm sorry. And you know, the other part of this that's strange when people are calling for unity right now is if this had happened to Joe Biden, if Joe Biden had been shot at and had part of his ear blown off, the very people calling for unity right now would be calling for the rest of us to be put in jail. So there's a strange asymmetry there as well.
And I would ask this. I would ask this.
The strange asymmetry was Biden trying to make a phone call to the wife of the killed firefighter and her rejecting the call and Donald Trump not even reaching out. Okay, that's the asymmetry. When you talk about it's just politics, this is the cancerous brain rot that conservatives have fooled everybody into thinking. It's not just politics to think that vaccines will kill you. Okay, I've got 3 dead family members from COVID. My mom won't get a vaccine. Okay, after both of them were in the military, these guys went up and down.
I'm not vaccinated. Thank
I'm
God.
sure you're
Nobody
not.
in
Don't
this
worry. We can all
studio is
tell. We
vaccinated.
can all
Thank
tell.
God.
My parents went up and down a line when they did basic training for the Air Force. They got 20, 30 vaccines each. My dad has a vaccine injury in his shoulder. And the idea of not getting vaccinated was unconscionable to them until the conservatives spread these messages that are just politics.
Let me ask you this, Destiny. Let me ask you this,
When the
Destiny.
science has shown that the vaccine actually was one of the worst things.
Baby girl not getting no screen time. She got no airtime. She just been sitting there quiet as a church mouse. She barely getting time to speak.
You could have done for yourself. Thank God I didn't get vaccinated. I thank God every single day I didn't get vaccinated.
Let's not get. I don't want to get. I don't want to read. I don't want to get back into COVID. I don't want to get back into COVID, right?
I don't want to get back into COVID.
Hang on, Charlie.
Asymmetry of it all.
Hang on, Charlie. I don't want to get down into COVID again. I want to stick to this story, and I want to ask you, Destiny, about Elon Musk, who is responded to one X user who was calling for him to demonetize you on the X platform. And he said, you're right. This is not appropriate content for advertisers because of the offensive tweets you were aiming at Trump supporters. What is your response to Elon Musk?
The same response as it always has been. Elon Musk is a thinly veiled, I would say, like anti-woke, anti-SJW, basically right-wing supporting guy. And if you say things that they don't like, of course they'll demonetize you, they'll cancel you. Conservatives are some of the least principled people in the universe when it comes to freedom of speech. As soon as they have any power to demonetize or spam report somebody's, sponsors or anything like that, of course conservatives will jump onto it. My account also was demonetized, I think in like 12 hours. Thank you very much, Elon Musk. Although I do notice that my docs has been floating around Twitter for 2 days now, and tons of accounts that I've been reporting that haven't been banned yet, but I'm glad we've got our priorities straight there.
Again, here's what I think we're all struck by. Your position seems to be that anyone from Donald Trump to his supporters who represents their thinking, their ideology, their political views, that if they are killed by an assassin at a rally, then they deserve what's coming to them. And in your words, fuck them. I mean, do you not understand that to most decent Americans and to decent people around the world, that is incredibly offensive and makes you look like a two-faced hypocrite, somebody who wants the other side to behave to a certain level of decency, but is himself incapable of displaying it.
The conservatives don't have it in them to have that level of decency.
So why don't you rise to a higher bar? Why don't you yourself show them the promised land, Destiny? Show them the way they should be behaving.
Have been doing it for 8 years. There's nothing to be gained there. So instead, we'll just have a laugh instead. When you're asking for this type of decency, you're saying
He said, why not? He said, there's nothing left. Just fire and brimstone. That's the only thing we have left now. We tried everything. We can only ask for death now.
They did for Pelosi's husband, like they did for BLM people, like they did for the endless. He didn't die, but he got the crap beat out of him with a hammer, and they made jokes about his
and
gay
by the way,
lover.
The jokes were disgusting. Why can't you say the same thing about the people making mockery of Trump? Why do you join the mob? Why do
It's
you?
not just because it's not just the jokes. It's the underlying substantive analysis as well. It's the lack of responsibility for January 6th. It's the lack of responsibility for the Gretchen plot. It's the lack of accountability for all the comments made about BLM protesters,
by your
George
yardstick,
Floyd, for Hillary Clinton, for all of these.
But by your yardstick, what the Republicans should do in response is simply say, "Fuck all of them, fuck them all. Who cares?"
Piers, that's what you're not understanding. Piers, listen to me. This is what you're not understanding. You keep bringing this up to me, like, well, Destiny, if you act like this, aren't conservatives just going to do?
Back your words
and then you say
to
a thing, but they've done this for 8 years.
Right. So
they're going to continue to do it.
The other side is horrendous. Therefore, I'm going to be even more horrendous. It's so unprincipled.
The horrendous part about the conservatives isn't just the rhetoric; it's the underlying
They're trying to
factual
outdo
denial
each
of
other.
reality. That's the biggest. That's the huge issue. That's the big bad
Let me bring
part.
Charlie.
Outdo each other.
Let me bring Charlie back to respond to that. Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the opposite. I think that, Destiny, you are completely fueled solely off of emotion, whereas I think that, I'll say conservatives, even though I think that it spans past conservatives, when they look at the facts of the summer of BLM, the BLM movement as a whole, January 6th, this assassination attempt, when you look at the facts, things unfold before your eyes, and they reveal themselves to be actually what they are. There's a lot of evidence that has come forth since all of these events in the past have occurred. And they have shown that exactly what conservatives were saying were absolutely correct. Just like the assassination attempt on Saturday, we look at what went wrong. We look at not only was this one rooftop unguarded, but how did the gunman know that the rooftop was unguarded? Why was it that local law enforcement alerted the Secret Service moments?
She running a conspiracy?
Well, actually, there is.
Shots
You
were
say
fired.
there it is. There is actually a very good question.
Do you think January 6th? Do you think J6 was a false flag?
I think January 6th, there's a lot of discussions to be had. I think there's a lot of facts that came forward. They're definitely.
Sweetheart, that was a yes or no, and then you could have answered all that. The moment you didn't do it, you just pretty much just said it was a false flag. You actually copped to his whole. Oh my, that was bad. That was bad. Now he just said fuck him. Ah man.
I will never give sympathy to this side. These guys are destroying the country. Dude.
Destiny,
there were agents present. We know for a fact.
Destiny, here's your problem with me.
There were agents present on January 6th. We saw the tourists being ushered into the Capitol building. They're being treated like terrorists. And in fact, several months ago, Vivek Ramaswamy said it's only fair that we're able to have a decent conversation about all of this.
Okay, let me say what I let me
we're not able to have a conversation about any of it because of people like you.
Let me just say what I think about January 6th, because I wrote it at the time and I believe it today. I thought it was a shameful attack on the heart of American democracy. It was an attempt to thwart democracy taking place. It should never have happened. Everyone involved in any violent act that day was utterly shameful. Donald Trump's rhetoric that day was appalling. All those things are completely true, Destiny. I can happily subscribe to that.
Neither of your other guests.
But here's the thing.
Neither of these guests agree with that.
But if I'm a Republican,
Piers, do you understand? Piers,
but if I'm a
acknowledge that
Republican,
neither of them
but
agree with
here's
what
the
you
thing,
just said?
Destiny. If I'm a Republican listening to you, I'm thinking, hang on. This guy thinks we're all disgusting. We're reprehensible. We have no empathy. We have no this, no that.
Absolutely,
and yet he himself is proud of being even more disgusting.
Not absolutely. And then I would say, wow, well, nothing has changed from since before COVID, before the vaccines, before J6, when they thought the election was stolen, when they thought that we were forced into lockdowns for no reason, when they thought that George Soros and the World Economic.
For no reason, though? I mean, I'm for sure not a big fan of everything when it comes to the whole pandemic. But for nothing, Destiny probably should not have been as long as they made it out to be. But for nothing, I won't say for nothing though.
Forum and the IMF banks and everybody were taking over the country, and the Federal Reserve was devaluing our currency. Like it's all the same. Nothing has changed.
Let me ask you this.
I'm curious. Wait, can you ask
one
these two
last
guys? Do they
question,
agree with
Destiny.
any part? Do they
One
agree
last
with
question
any part
for
of
you.
your characterization of J6?
Destiny, one last question for you. Are you pleased that Donald Trump got shot?
Am I pleased? No, absolutely not.
What is your emotion to the shooting?
My emotion is emotionally what? In terms of his personal health, is absolute indifference.
No. Do you condemn the shooter shooting Donald Trump?
No. Not here, not on this program, not in front of these people. Absolutely.
You do not condemn a
Not in
deranged
front of these
shooter
people.
shooting
You are
Donald
truly
Trump.
just a child. This is not.
Actually,
this is not a
no.
competition
You know
here.
what,
We're
Charlie?
just trying to be decent human
You know what,
beings.
Charlie? It's not actually the behaviour of a child. It's the behaviour of somebody who's completely lost his moral compass and any sense of decency.
You're right. A child wouldn't.
And I'm going to go to Dave Rubin. Dave, let me let Dave Rubin respond to what you've just heard from Destiny.
I mean, it's actually one of the most disgusting things that I've ever heard in my life. My entire staff in my studio right now all gasped at that. When I happened to be at Target, the store Target, we were checking out when I saw it on Twitter, and my
I'm gonna ask again because he's done things like this. Do we think he believes it, or is he literally just trying to build his villain arc? Because Destiny's done shit like this before. That's my question.
My heart actually sank. And I know that that is the feeling of probably 200 plus, if not 300 plus million Americans, even many of whom would vote against Trump and do not like Trump and all of those other things. The idea that you can't show sympathy or empathy for that is so profoundly sad. I would also add one other thing here, which is that the reason you're so emotive and screaming beyond the Red Bull, and dude, just ease up, man, it's not healthy for your heart, is that you really don't have good arguments. So you're petulant and screaming as opposed to just trying to work things out. We're allowed to ask questions about these things, but I would hope that you would try, as Piers is pointing out, instead of always reaching for the lowest common denominator and they're bad, so I'll be worse. I would hope that we could try to be a little bit better than that. And by the way, I think that you're seeing that right now at the Republican National Convention. They're not going crazy over all of this. They're applauding the fact that Trump's there. They're rallying around the new VP choice. And I think you're going to see a wide swath of America that maybe didn't come out for Trump before and they're not traditional conservatives.
I totally agree.
I think you're going to see them support Trump.
I totally agree. And I would say to you, Destiny.
I think it's more
I would say
emblematic
to
of
you,
the situation
Destiny.
and the fact that the VP choice is a guy who's also said that Donald Trump is like Hitler.
Yeah,
I would say perfect cherry on top to everything.
For it and said he got it wrong.
Yeah, I would say this to you, Destiny. Lester Holt asked Joe Biden last night, has he had any soul searching? Right. I think after this debate, you may want to just go away quietly and think about some of the answers you've given. And think about the double standard of demanding a certain pattern of behavior from others that you do not sign up to. And you may or may not take my advice. You may or may not take my advice. I'm just saying, on reflection, you might conclude that the best way to persuade other people.
So he's definitely wow. Okay, so I got Destiny's. So I got Destiny's take on CCD. Happy I actually went through the whole thing of actually seeing what Destiny was going to say first prior to seeing what Warren is gonna say, because I think the guy is very smart. I think he's very good at breaking down conversations, and it doesn't seem like, based on what I see from the title says the debate that finally finished Destiny responds to an attempt on Trump. Now I won't say that this is going to be the quote discussion that is going to finish Destiny. Like I said, Destiny's had a whole career of basically being rather inflammatory about the things that he said and such. So I don't think this will be the marker. But we'll have somebody who's actually going to break it down, who's actually pretty good when it comes to deciphering the things that what people say. And I want to see for myself. Like, it's just so funny that you sent that to me, CCD. He's definitely been on my feed ever since the debate. It just took this long for me to actually see it. But we're gonna do that in real time. So I wanna catch what he's actually saying. Let me draw this up real quick. So no, we're not looking at you. And what we'll do. All right, so here we go. Let's have a quick look at that. See what he says.
You can see it. Look at the chair. It shows vibrations. Look at his arms. This shows that beneath his rationalization, his subconscious knows that something is off. You can feel it in your words when you're not on firm footing. When I heard that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, I was in the car with my mom, who is someone who deeply loathes Trump. was able to hook up my phone and go to a YouTube live stream. We saw the visuals, and her response was deeply human. It was shock and sadness. I was looking at the responses of people online.
The dude, the firefighter guy, Trump, the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay? Just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, you don't, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away or whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am.
The strategy that Destiny implements, it's highly effective because he will take an acorn of truth. In this case, in recent days, he's been using January 6th.
Very good
question. Do you think January 6th, do you think J6 was a false flag?
I think January 6th, there's a lot of discussions to be had. I think there's a lot of facts that came forward. They're definitely...
I will never give sympathy to this side. These guys are destroying the country.
What Piers does to counteract that is he acknowledges that there were great mistakes made on January 6th.
It should never have happened. Everyone involved in any violence at that day was utterly shameful. Donald Trump's rhetoric that day was appalling. All those things are completely true, Destiny.
You're building your argument upon that foundation. Okay, but are you saying that an assassination on a former president and a leading candidate of one of the two parties, is that not also an attack on democracy?
Given you are so determined...
You know what? Good saying of that. Because you even went to the point where you're basically saying, essentially, all the people in the crowd, because they was essentially there to, quote, support the person that they want to vote for, fuck them, right? But you didn't necessarily say anything that this is actually something that's wrong, because a hit towards a president, a hit towards even the people, just a hit towards an American, especially when we're talking about a rally, let's just say this wasn't the president, right? Let's just say if they were just doing it for local elections, if they were just doing it for a mayor, if there was a peaceful protest and this was a person with a megaphone or whatever out talking to everybody else, giving a speech or whatever, and this was an incident that was firing out, is that not also an attack on democracy? Warren makes a point already. That didn't even come to my mind. Was that not something that should have been coming to mind to say, damn, this was a shitty thing that should have happened, not fuck them? Simply because you don't like the way how, quote, a particular party has been acting for the past 8 years? I didn't even think about that. He already scored that quickly.
To protect the integrity of democracy, you would find it absolutely outrageous that someone has tried to assassinate a president, right?
Piers does not let him get away from the question. Destiny is very good at this. He's very elusive, and he tries to pivot. Piers brings him back.
I'm not going to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness or show sympathy to conservatives.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to condemn what happened as an egregious attack on democracy. Can you do that?
No, I won't. No, I won't.
You can't do that.
Then you compound losing logical credibility with just the morality of what he's saying.
Do you not understand that to most decent Americans and to decent people around the world, that is incredibly offensive and makes you look like a two-faced hypocrite?
Piers structures this highly effectively.
Do you condemn the shooter shooting Donald Trump?
No. Not here, not on this program, not in front of these people.
Which neutralizes it.
I can see despicable behavior on all sides, and I'm happy to call it out when I see it. You, however, want to present yourself as this great kind of standard bearer of decency, who sees outrageous behavior on the right time and again and is incensed by this disgusting, inhumane behavior. And yet time and again, since the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, you have displayed exactly the same kind of inhumane behavior.
What Destiny does is he takes an acorn of truth.
And I will say I've seen Destiny do this a lot, but I can also say that I have not you know what? I think it's because, and here's the reason why I'll say it, I'm failing at this. I'm failing at capturing Destiny at this. Too many times I'm too busy trying to formulate what was taking place from the last person to Destiny and actually putting the two things together to formulate my own opinion, that when Destiny starts deflecting and starts moving away, it's because he speaks so fast. I speak fast in my head, but he speaks fast literally. that now I'm trying to catch up to what he actually said, and I lose the entire processing. So I don't even. Sometimes I forget that I need to stick him to a particular point when he runs away. Because I'm too busy just trying to formulate what he just said real quickly on top of everything I'm already trying to keep in my head. And that's where he's definitely elusive. I need to get better at that. Like not just my, because I'm not trying to interpret. Like a lot of times I'm trying to hear exactly what the person is saying. And typically we all just interpret because it's a shortcut. But I try to hear exactly the words being said because he's very good at that active listening, and I need to get stronger at that. So when he speaks fast, like it's hard to capture all the words he's saying real quick and to say that I got every word verbatim that he said. So yeah, he moves pretty damn quickly. So if you're not watching and you can go back, if it's in real time, oh my goodness.
Something true. He takes that.
And that's the same for Ben Shapiro as well. Another speed demon.
Acorn, plants it in the ground and waters it with this fertilizer of hate and the ability to speak quickly with blind conviction. And when you take an acorn of truth with the fertilizer of hate, that's a potent mixture. We've seen this throughout history that causes that acorn to just grow into a tree. It's similar to how the best lies are partially true. They have to be effective lies built around a kernel of truth. But you can never lose sight of that kernel and allow that to make you feel justified in where that argument can take you. It's a foolish game to play. This is what hate does. It turns you into the very thing that you think you are fighting.
You yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful, that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally.
Part of me is glad that he is foolish enough to say these things so that the world can see that this is real. Two of my mom's best friends came the following day and they wanted to go out to dinner, and they took me out to dinner for my birthday. They said something interesting. They were sitting in the back seat and they said, yes, we heard the news about Donald Trump at this rally. But then we saw the headlines, and they weren't the headlines we were hoping for. And I just looked at my mom. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her, kind of like, you see what I mean? And she looked down, and in that moment I could tell that she was, because these are her very good friends. They're not evil people. They're not stupid people, which is what's so concerning about this. In that moment, I was thinking there are going to be many out there who.
So I don't know what he's about to finish in that sentence, but I was just thinking to myself, as much as we hate to say it, there are definitely people who are thinking exactly on the lines of Destiny, who could be rather extreme in their views, and God forbid to be honest, they might even be no different than the actual shooter that took his stab at the former president. The only difference and now let's just say that Trump has survived this, or there's other people that they're very vocal because of all the stuff that's happening right now. So now everybody's giving their point of views or whatever around these people, and they're just like, shit, like this man's gonna win now because dumbass apparently didn't get the job done, and they're having these stoking flames that are inside of them, but now they were getting doused because this man is surviving. And then of course he gets, he's backed up by the Republican Party now. And then you get someone like Destiny who comes in and just throws this wild, lobbing grenade that could potentially fire them back up again. And it could do a lot of damage. It could really do a lot of damage. So, because there are people who are thinking like this on this level, and what might have been an attempt that pretty much put them in a position where they would back off. Destiny's speaking, while I don't think he should be that big, but again, he's someone who's actually made it to Piers Morgan. They could look at that as a rallying cry.
I do wish that bullet had been an inch to the right. Many of them will not.
Let me hit that back.
People, which is what's so concerning about this. In that moment, I was thinking there are going to be many out there who do wish that bullet had been an inch to the right. Many of them will not say that out loud. There are going to be many feeling that right now. How can decent people get to the point where they believe that murder is the answer? So where do you think that will lead to? It would, if you were that concerned about January 6th, Destiny, imagine what would occur next. They have seen him, people try and put him in prison, try and bankrupt him, try and impeach him. Then to see him shot, regardless of whether you agree with that or disagree with it, that is how many people are going to view this, because we have been playing a stupid game, an unwise game.
But they've done this for 8 years.
Right, so
they're going to continue to do it.
The other side is horrendous, therefore I'm going to be even more horrendous.
Imagine being on the Titanic, missing the iceberg by an inch, coming to the conclusion there's still icebergs out there.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, even when I think about it right now, the whole Destiny's point is just basically saying, well, they're out there doing it too. So it's okay for you to act rather radical because you're stating that other people have been radical, rather than find a way to just defeat them, saying, just like Piers was saying, so you're gonna be just as bad as they are. You're gonna get in the mud. You're gonna play just as dirty as they are. So there's no way we can actually look at a resolution between you guys. Isn't it the same kind of action? Because I was saying this earlier, that we're at a point where there's something that's happening in the world. Outside of the U.S., and you can even say within pockets of the U.S., there is this weird feeling that World War III is coming. In the U.S., there's a big talk about the Civil War. But outside the U.S., a lot of people are looking at this in terms of not just this particular thing, but there's this feeling, there's this energy that's moving around for World War III. That people are worried, they're concerned that it could be something that's taking place. And of course, you're going to have some sicko fans that want it. They desire it because they believe that somehow they're going to make changes in the world when they're lone people with a dream. A fantasy, actually.
We narrowly missed this one. Rather than learning from your mistakes, you say full steam ahead. We weren't going fast enough. Stoke the fires even more. What could go wrong?
If you'd have the same attitude if it was your parents who'd been killed at a Trump rally, and you replied, it's less end-of-life costs for me, would I lose sleep over it? No. Do you understand how grotesque that sounds?
It sounds grotesque, but the environment that we're in right now is grotesque.
In my family who are concerned about me even talking about anything relating to Trump or this topic, there's nothing to be afraid of. And this is not a political discussion. This is not a political debate. It's a debate on morality. And so Destiny's coming at it from a political angle. Piers is coming at it trying to show the hypocrisy.
The conservatives don't have it in them to have that level of decency.
So why don't you rise to a higher bar?
Think about the logic you are presenting here. What is the next step from here if we were to suddenly follow your logic? If you were to suddenly convince half the country to listen to what you're saying, what would occur? And going back to Stephen Fry in last week's video, when he speaks about resisting, resist this, fight against this hatred, this idea that you should be alienated. Perhaps it's a mother who cares deeply about.
I mean, and that's rather the point he's actually making in that too. Like, there's this thing where you need to be able to resist the idea of, like, there are people who, like, it's no different from people that they're looking forward to the apocalypse, because you always get people that just think that the world's going to end during their life cycle. They're looking forward to the apocalypse. They'll do whatever it even takes to even have the apocalypse come, just so they can say that they're right, because they somehow believe that they're going to be morally unjust, and when the maker comes down, they will be chosen for being righteous, because they think that they did their job. And while you have plenty of other people who are sitting there going, I don't want that. I don't want the war. Why does it have to happen during my life cycle? There have been plenty of people that had great lives and never had to worry about that. There are some people that had to fight for this. There are people who went through their entire existence and never had to worry about such a thing. Why does it have to happen during mine? There, as many as you have the few that ask for it, there were so many people that outshadowed them that say we don't want it. That's not what we desire. But then we also have to worry about this particular culture that is always the minority that cause a lot of trouble, that cause change for the majority. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about why that particular thing comes into place where the people who, what's up with the numbers game? Because obviously math and statistics must be wrong. We must have it wrong. You know what? OG, Mayo, CCD, we may have it wrong. Terrence Howard might be right. Maybe the math is different. Maybe the real math is that the minority rules. Maybe we've had algebra, calculus, we've had basic math all wrong for a long time. Because when we see the way how human beings move, numbers don't seem to matter much. Numbers don't seem to make a lot of sense. The cents seem to be more valuable than the dollars. The cents seem to be more valuable than the dollars. The coins are more valuable than the whole dollar bill. It's crazy.
The flow of drugs across the border. Perhaps she lost a child to drugs. Perhaps it's a farmer who is struggling to put food on the table and does not know what to do given government regulations in their state. Everyone has the right to care about what is most meaningful to them. That does not warrant this kind of divide and hatred.
That's the asymmetry. When you talk about it's just politics, this is the cancerous brain rot that conservatives have fooled everybody into thinking.
It's the behavior of somebody who's completely lost his moral compass and any sense of decency.
What is the next step when we can no longer negotiate, when we can no longer reason with one another? I hope that my family, who are worried about me even discussing something like this, can understand why I think it is still worth having this conversation and making this video. What is the alternative?
Right, I think after this debate, you may
I appreciate
just go
that
away
music.
quietly
I like it.
and think about some of the answers you've given, and think about the double standard of demanding a certain pattern of behavior from others that you do not sign up to. And you may or may not take my advice.
Listen. This really just goes off into everything I was actually working on earlier. Earlier in the week, earlier today, because there's a big topic that I have. Well, not a big topic, but there are things that I'm particularly having in my mind, and I didn't even know that this particular segment, when it came to Destiny, was really going to lean into the things that I'm already thinking about when I'm trying to script past it, because I see things, I get ideas in my head. I'll start scripting some stuff, and I'm like, I pull back. Then I'm like, I'm gonna leave it the way it is. I'll walk away. I go touch some grass, drink, chill, maybe go on a panel, whatever. But I think after seeing this, I might have an awakening that might help me finish this out. Because even now that I'm thinking about it, I have titles that are popping in my head because I haven't even written a title for this yet. I just got a theory of how I'm trying to take this, so I can gather as much information before I start making my own opinion on it. And I'll even let you know some of the things that are popping in my head is like we have to think about the selfishness of human beings. The idea that you can turn around and you just say to someone like fuck them because they were simply there because I just care about how I feel. Even though I was nowhere in the vicinity, I don't care about other human life because I just care about how it makes me feel. And so you have that extreme amount of individualism. And then there's the matter of when we have people who can behave like this, right? When you have these shooters, when you have people in mass that can just be against how a particular person moves, when we have how people will create wars, seemingly over small territory, by the way. Like, I think of Russia going after Ukraine. This is not strategic ground that they're going to gain a big foothold into the rest of the world. It's a small bit of providence that they lost for a long time, by the way. It wasn't going to give them any strategic advantage. I think about China and their gaze over Taiwan. That's not a strategic advantage. That won't get you anything. What the fuck is that gonna do? I don't get it. And I guess the next thing that hits in my mind is like, are they just doing it just for the sake of just being wicked? Like, I guess when we come down to it, are we just thinking that the question is like, are people just evil? I don't think I would choose that as a title. Like, are humans like just evil? Are I don't know. This is a rough one, but it's making me think. I've got new questions in my head that I need to go through. Um, I might have to just write a couple of things, simmer on it, and then I'll go back to the desk and I'll start writing a couple of things. And we'll just have to see where that goes for the future. And that's just the way how I'm going to look at it. That's just the way how I'm going to look at it. I think that this was a very an enlightening segment. I don't know why I don't take the time to really see more of Warren's work. Every time I think I'm going to, I don't. I have to make sure that I subscribe to him or something like that because he doesn't show up on my feed. So I have to make sure I subscribe to him to really take a look at his stuff because I do like the way he thinks. It's very slow and linear, so I could definitely follow it. I just hope I don't miss anything because I'm not paying attention because he does get rather slow and linear for the couple of things I did watch. As always, guys, when we're done with all this, I will be putting all of these links in the actual description box. So just be aware of that one as well. Mayo, you say, well, it also doesn't solve the reason they claim. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I just, when I think of the things that these large continents, because they pretty much hold almost the goddamn continent. They're pretty much a continent in their own. Like, when I think of the things that they're striving for, I go, that makes no fucking sense. Is it really worth going to war over such small ground? Taiwan? Ukraine? Is it really worth that? It's not like they just entirely attacked the whole nation. It does nothing. Well, I can't say that about I can't really say that about, like, you can say that if Ukraine was trying to join NATO, but Putin doesn't want anything to do with it. So him getting Ukraine would just be like still a no about NATO. So I don't see. And Taiwan, I don't get Taiwan at all. I don't. I don't get it. It's beyond me. I am a bit of a strategist, but I can tell you right now, I am not much of a tactician. I like chess, but I don't go on my way to try to make tactical decisions. I make strategies, I make sound plans, and maybe you know what? Maybe I should start picking up books on tactics, or specifically on tactics, and just start working my way through it. I think it'll help me. I've been really focusing a lot on my communication. I do like strategy, but I think I need to pick up something that goes specifically into tactics, and maybe I'll get a better understanding of positions and what's important when it comes to those positions. Because I can say that I can stare at a board game, I can understand the positions of it, but I cannot give you the end game just staring at it. So I don't know. Yeah, you're right. But but you could say the same thing. We could say the same thing about Japan. But after you've had your war, and let's be honest, because the only way you're really getting through that, you're not going to get to Taiwan without going to the U.S. God forbid, because we'll go out there to go fucking fight. So after bombs and rain and everything, how much of a tech land do you have when, quite frankly, you have facilities that's going to be razed to rubble? I don't know, guys. It's going to be something I'm thinking about for a while. I'm actually, despite the fact that I really didn't know what I was going to be doing, hopefully you guys really enjoyed this particular stream. I think, quite frankly, what I might just do is I might just give you back your time right now. And what I'll do in the meantime is I'll start figuring some things out or whatever. OG most likely is going to have his show, which is going to be at 7, which is his Central Time. So be aware, be on the lookout for that one. And I don't know if OG is doing a movie night or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to be taking care of a couple of things. I'm going to jot down some notes of things what's going on. I think I found a little bit of enlightenment of this. Like I said, I'm going to give you back the rest of your days. And we're going to end it out with a little bit of information. Of course, I'm going to be making some changes. They'll just be small implementation until things are coming on. I've been thinking about a lot of different strategies, how I'm going to change, hook things up, get a little bit more engagement when it comes to you guys. As much as I love talking to you guys and reading the chats and things like that, I have been thinking about more ways for us to be more engaging, to be able to be more appealing to other people who want to be more engaging with the people that they actually speak to in the host. I've been thinking about more strategies and more topics and how I might want to open up the platform itself for more of the people who want to show up, like on panels, things like that. I'm always very hesitant about it, because the internet's a very crazy place, and if you're not ready for it, you're just not ready for it. Outside of that, I don't really want to spoil anything, because I don't want to say anything and then I'm not really going to do it. But at the same time, I'm enthusiastic about it. But I think right now I need to sit my butt down. I need to put pen to paper, or rather type, and get everything together. I'm going to give you back the rest of your time. I'm going to give you whatever you have yourself. Take this time, be with your friends, with your families, with your loved ones, or just chill and just listen to your favorite music or jump to your favorite paddle. But I'm giving you the best of your time, the rest of your time, and I'll see you on the next one. Please stay opinionated.